Good afternoon. I'd like to call the regular board meeting for CCWD to order on Wednesday, August 12th at 1 o'clock. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll call the roll.
Okay. Director Davidson?
Here.
Director Thomas?
I'm here.
Director Cicada?
Here.
Director Ratterman?
Here.
President Underhill?
Here. Okay, item number 2 is public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized items. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda, items 3A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Any board member may request that any item be removed for later discussion. Do I have any removals?
Move for approval.
Okay. Moved and seconded. If you call the roll.
Okay. Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Thomas?
Yes.
Director Cicada? Director Ratterman?
Yes.
President Underhill?
Yes. Okay. Item number 4, new business. Item 4A, and the two fellas are busy in the field.
Excuse me?
Oh, they're here.
Recognition of Kelly.
Yeah, we've got one of them here now.
Oh,
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, President Underhill, directors. In the recent past, the district had a mishap with a VACCON at the Ebbets Pass White Pines barn, where the tank was left up upon trying to back the VACCON back into the barn, and it caused some minor damage to the building. And so our distribution senior in the area, Kelly Gerkensmeyer, and our mechanic, Mike Samarano, identified a solution, which was to install a backup camera on the VACCON. Kelly came up with the plan, and then Mike researched and found the proper camera and then installed it on the VACCON. And HR then went ahead and submitted the work effort that they had completed to the JPIA Safety Committee, and they received the HR LeBounty Safety Award. And this award is designed to promote safe workplace practices and behavior and reward staff who demonstrate as such. And I think, you know, it goes without saying that our staff do a great job, but to work together to identify an issue and then effectively resolve it is really something to be proud of, and they should be commended. So with that, I'd like to bring Mike Samarano up here and present him his HR LeBounty Award. And if you can see the enthusiasm behind his mask. Yes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
So does that go in the back window of your service truck or what?
Oh, that's perfect.
I'll put it on the license plate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
congratulations, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. And unfortunately, Kelly couldn't be here. He has the day off, so I'm sure he's somewhat sad, but we look forward to presenting this to him.
Great.
Thanks, y'all.
You know, I'm actually surprised at those. I mean, that is a very productive thing. And I mean, I'm just wondering of all of our equipment, you know, those backup cameras, even when I bought my new truck, I was really suspect of the whole thing. But even the 4 sensors on the bumpers, and
Yeah.
everything, I've really found to like that
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah.
You know, particularly because I've always got stuff in the back of the vehicle or something.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, I mean, is that something we're gonna do fleet-wide, or have we looked at our fleet for that? I mean, the older vehicles?
Yeah.
You know, most of the new ones, even our bigger trucks have that, I imagine.
Correct. They are on the newer trucks and they are on the enterprise vehicles that we've purchased. And even the Rangers. So we have Rangers that now have elevated toolboxes. And some staff initially had some concern that it was going to impede their vision when they were backing up. And then we realized, oh, you've got a backup camera. And
Yeah.
problem solved. And they're really helpful.
Yeah.
Really helpful. I've been in a couple of the large service trucks recently where the backup camera was a great help in allowing us to, or providing us the ability to get around a small tank site, and it's just really helpful tool.
Great. Good.
And did the new Vacon come with one?
I believe it does have one,
Should,
yes.
that would make sense.
Yeah, the gap backs.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading about how much it costs for $150, and I was thinking, I wonder, had we made that part of our purchase originally, how much more that would have cost?
Right, yeah, you know, when we purchased that Vacon initially, I don't even know if we would have had the ability at that point in time to bring one online.
Yeah, I don't think they existed.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly not
Backup
in-
cameras didn't exist yet.
Yeah,
So
right.
this is an upgrade.
I don't know if yeah, yep.
They could have just put a seat on there, Bertha, and the guy can just yell when he gets close.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they used to do.
That's the old fashioned
That would
version.
cost-
That's right,
That's
right.
how they used to do it.
Yeah, that's great. When he starts screaming, you've gone too far.
That's great.
Okay,
And there was a $50 part of that prize that each of them received from JPIA.
Yes,
So
that's true.
it's a great award.
Perfect.
yeah, and if I remember correctly, and, you know, we're taxing my memory, we have, CCWD has won a safety award in the past for, I don't quite remember what it was, but I know that a few years ago, Jeff, do you remember?
Oh, yeah, there's been a few.
That's
So-
great.
Didn't Kelly
I think,
also come up with a way to ground the
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yes,
hose on the Vacon?
yes, right, yeah, exactly. On the suction tubing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So that the culture of safety is very entrenched in CCWD, and I'm really proud of all of our staff.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about our field staff.
And I think that's why we wanted to bring it to the board, to make sure you're aware of those things and to make sure that the crew gets the recognition they deserve.
Well, who came up with the $50?
That was JPIA.
Yeah,
Really? Well,
Yeah.
we might have, you know, well, they've been very generous to us in the past, but, you know, it doesn't seem like a whole lot. Maybe.
Right. No, we should consider matching it.
yeah.
Okay?
Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Damon.
Uh-huh. Okay, item 4B, the development of Calaveras County Public Water Resources data packets.
Yeah, good afternoon, directors. I'm really excited about this next item to present to all of you. These are what we are terming the Public Water Resources Data Packets, and in short, this is now public data and information that we've pulled together into a few pages of graphical information that we can post on the website, which will help give the public a sense of current water resources conditions in Calaveras County, essentially answer the questions of where are we at, what does it look like, what are our reservoir levels, precip to date, flow conditions on the major rivers like the McCalmey, Calaveras, Stanislaus, and other really useful information that would be good to highlight for the public. From my end, it was development that I had done in the background while working on other tasks with Michael and other staff here at the district. So happy to present an automated tool that puts these together daily and posts on our website with very little maintenance and requirements from myself or others to keep it maintained and going. A lot of it's pulled and relies on public data sources, primarily the Department of Water Resources California Data Exchange Center, or CDEC, where a lot of this information is housed. In short, the tool that I put together, which is mostly in Microsoft Excel, goes out, grabs the information from the website, pulls it back, and puts it into the graphical format that you see in the attachment in the packet. Right now, it's online, ready to use. The press release for this was released yesterday, and as I mentioned, it'll continue to update daily and be available on our website for whoever in the county wants to use or view the data. And we are at the staff level, able to track use and clicks and reliance on this to see, what's happening and how widespread is this within the county. So again, I'm really excited to present this over, and it's just going to be hopefully a useful tool for everyone to figure out where are we at and what are the current water resources conditions.
Because that is a question that I'm sure all of us get. People say walking down in the grocery store, well, how are we doing on water? And it's a matter of just referring them to, the source. You said that it's gathering the information from
CDEC, primarily, a couple NCPA sources on some of the flow data on the last page, but primarily from DWR's website. It's information that's already publicly available, albeit in tabular form and at the state level. So this is really digesting that information, pulling it into this tool that I've created, and then pushing it back out with more of a focus on Calaveras County.
Okay, so how much manual time do you have to spend doing this?
Going forward, very little. It's a few button clicks and the programming's already done to just go and grab the information.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
And so you yourself will be monitoring this, or do you have your staff? Or?
Yeah, I myself can do that. Every morning I've been doing it, and truth be told, a lot of it's already automated, so it kind of does it itself. I have a QA/QC check that's sent to me to monitor if there is any low-hanging fruit errors or things that, we want to make sure it doesn't violate. A good example of that is when it collects reservoir data. If it comes and tells me that I got more water in a reservoir than the capacity, I know that's an issue. So I have it do a few checks, send me back the issues if there are any, and if it has 0 errors, then I just click OK, and then it posts it. I've shown others at the district here how to use it, but the programming's
So then I was
done.
thinking of that because you are going to be on vacation, you are going to be sick,
Well,
hopefully not very much. Yeah, but, you have a succession, or you have other people who will be filling in for you when you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's mostly automated. We just have myself and others that can review, and if there are errors, the worst case scenario is that we just leave the packet from the day beforehand and don't update for that day. If there are major errors, but if not, which we've now been running this for a few weeks, and knock on wood, of course, but there hasn't been any issues in collecting the data. And this is certainly worth acknowledging the efforts done by DWR, CDEC, NCPA, and others to maintain and make that data available for us to collect.
Have
So
we
I-
thought
oh, sorry,
of
go
putting this on a bill? This,
On a bill? Oh, on a bill that we mail
Just
out?
information.
We haven't thought of that yet. It takes up several pages, and it's really just a snapshot in time.
I meant the link.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a great idea.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give them an explanation of what this is,
Mm-hmm.
give them the link, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, did we just do a press release on this?
Yeah, just
We
yesterday.
did, yeah. And I just want to add, I think, I'm really excited about this too for multiple reasons. And to address your question, we do have the entire Water Resources Department involved in this, so we don't have to worry about that. But not only to me, for us water nerds out there, and there are a lot in Calaveras County, as you mentioned, we get these questions all the time, especially as soon as it starts to look like it might be a dry year, those questions start coming regularly. So this is just a fantastic tool for us to be able to point to. It puts it into context of what a normal and, what a wet year is, what a dry year is, and where we are every day is just a really exciting tool to have. It'll bring, I think, more traffic to our website, which is a good thing when we want to get information out. But I think it also demonstrates just the initiative and the technical capabilities that Brad has brought already. That's equally exciting to me as the tool itself. So.
And you were right to hire this guy.
I think yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you, and it is worth repeating that this hasn't taken away from my normal duties in the position. This has been in the background. Quite frankly, I did it because it helps me to better understand the system in Calaveras County. I'm a newcomer, so coming up here, getting to know where are the reservoirs, what are typical precip flow conditions around the county, it helped me, and then also gave me an opportunity to dust off the programming skills and put together something like this. So yeah, I'm excited, and I think hopefully it'll be useful for everyone going forward.
Oh, well, great, congratulations. I think this is wonderful, and I'd like to have, as I say, maybe I'll just Xerox this or something so I can have it as I'm walking around, saying, here it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also, I think it's also inspired some other ideas that we have for the Water Resources webpage. So I would say stay tuned on this front, because we'll keep, I think, exploring ways to get more information out to the public.
To whatever extent possible, the most questions I get when water levels get low in Hogan is, are we gonna run out of water? And then I have to go into the explanation of, you know, how much our reservation is, or our permit is, and how much we use. You know, it's a 31,000 versus about a 4,000 in use. And it would be interesting just to have that maybe added. I mean, you know, actual acre feet, available acre feet used per year, you know, at least in some of the areas, if that's possible.
That's a great idea, and that's something that when Michael says stay tuned, we've already kind of been playing with ideas of how do we incorporate our treatment plant data, our usage, our rights, things into there, mainly in a format that's digestible for the public. That's really the trick, is we have a lot of water rights, a lot of complexity. As I've been learning more, I can certainly confirm there's a lot of complexity in everything, so how do we boil that down to the public? And Michael, Damon, Jesse, other staff here have been great in helping to kind of brainstorm on some of that.
Well, without question, questions about the lake level is always goes into a conversation of what we actually have available, and the fact that we have the bottom of the lake and that sort of thing. So any way that you could add that kind of information would be great.
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
wanted to mention that that this is very impressive, Brad, but for the other two directors that are here today, just take a stroll by Brad's office and look
I
on.
did, yeah, I was already there,
that-
yeah.
He's got what it looks like an electrical diadiagram on the whiteboard there that shows every drop of water and where it goes and who owns it. And it's very impressive. I'm very pleased to see you doing that stuff. It's good.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. Who is immediately working with you on getting these figures so that, who on staff is?
I've had a chance to show Rebecca here in the office, and that could be just because the office next to me. It's button clicks. It's really easy to do. Hopefully you can confirm that it's super easy to generate these and to generate QA/QC reports. I've had a chance to at least show Michael some of the front end on there. And as we move forward now with this, I'm convinced any staff member can catch up to what needs to be done. I can't stress enough that this tool is mostly automated, and just as long as you leave it alone to do its own thing, it does it.
Okay, wonderful. This is terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
I think I'm up here for the next item as well, so.
Oh, okay. 4C, discussion action regarding implementation of CCWD's wholesale water agreement with Blue Lake Springs Mutual Water Company.
And Becca will be pulling up a PowerPoint presentation that's not attached to the agenda packet, but should be available on the screens here soon. And I don't know if printed copies were handed out. Okay, if not, they'll be on the screen. All right, perfect. I'll grab that.
There we go. Make sure it was working.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so we'll talk here about the Blue Lake Springs Mutual Water Company, just an update on the agreement and some of the current issues that are currently going on with Blue Lake Springs in our Ebbets Pass area. We'll provide in the presentation here a brief overview of Blue Lake Springs, just some background information, talk about our wholesale treated water agreement with this mutual water company, and then provide a status update, in particular issues that are currently going on with high demand in the area, in all likelihood due to summer tourism, COVID-19, folks flocking from more of the urban areas up towards the Highway 4 corridor. A quick background on Blue Lake Springs. It is a neighborhood of Arnold, California. It's managed by the Blue Lake Springs Homeowners Association, effectively a private neighborhood with its own facilities, recreation, other infrastructure. And the domestic water supplies fall under what's called the Blue Lake Springs Mutual Water Company. I'll refer to them as the Mutual Water Company going forward here. And they have approximately 2,000 lots with around 1,700 connections, population of about 650 permanent residents in the winter, and that can expand all the way up to 5,500 in the summer. So they are used to huge swings of increase during the summer months due to tourism, recreation, etc. And their water supply is typically 50% of local groundwater and our treated inflow coming from the Ebbets Pass service area. And the map over here just shows briefly where we're talking about in and around Arnold, where their water treatment plant is rather, and where our intertie connection is with them, which is more towards the heart of Arnold, where it pipes into their system. And they have their own groundwater wells up near White Pines Lake.
Brad, can I interrupt you for a second? It's difficult for some of us to see that over there. Is it possible to get it illuminated on this screen as well?
Oh, sure.
It should be.
Sorry about that. Sorry for it to get pulled up here. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, they have their own water treatment plant system with distribution. It's just under half an MGD capacity, 2 storage tanks with about 1.5 million gallons to store within the Blue Lake Springs Mutual Water Company service area. We have a wholesale treated water agreement with the Mutual Water Company signed in October of 2015, an agreement between us and them for the sale of treated water from our Ebbets Pass system used to supplement their groundwater pumping. So the idea was that they have their groundwater wells up near White Pines. We're able to backfill to meet their demand, particularly in the summer months, to help them out with water supply. Some of the key points of that agreement is that the Mutual Water Company paid around $8,250 capacity fee and pays a bi-monthly rate for its 6-inch meter, plus additional consumptive charges. And we provide up to around 100,000 gallons per day from May 1st to September 30th for partial demand, again owing to that roughly 50-50 split with their groundwater wells. But then during the later months of the year, October 1st to the next year, April 30th, we can provide up to the entire demand. We have much more flexibility to help them with their supplies during those later months if the capacity is available from CCWD. And the Mutual Water Company may purchase additional incremental capacity with the conditions based on a capacity charge for new connections, and that was in the agreement for post-1987 wells. So again, they have the ability to expand their 100,000 gallon per day capacity in those summer months if it's needed long term. Which brings us to today's current issue. They've seen increased demands due to a large influx of residents for normal summer tourism, but in all likelihood also because of COVID-19 restrictions in the urban areas. We know that there's been a flock of people from Sacramento, Bay Area, elsewhere up towards the mountains as they get away from the high COVID impacted areas. And with that has increased the reliance on our supply quite a bit, around 10,000 gallons per day on weekdays, anywhere from 70 to 80,000 gallons per day over the weekends. Now, we have the capacity available to meet this demand from the Ebbets Pass system and have been doing so to date. But regarding the agreement, I think we need to better understand if this is temporary or permanent residence changes before we start to go down the idea of permanent capacity increases versus temporary resolution of some of these drastic increases due to the emergency pandemic conditions. It's important to note that the Mutual Water Company aren't trying to skirt their obligations. They are aware of the agreement that I mentioned on the last slide, and they came to us looking to resolve the current increase of issues that they're seeing in their area of Arnold. And so with that, we've had a chance to meet with them, with Director Underhill there, and the staff proposal at this point is to waive the 100,000 gallon per day cap through September 30th to get us through the summer months, and then revisit prior to next year's start of the summer 100,000 gallon per day cap to understand if this demand was sustained, what are the impacts of COVID, is this just a typical summer influx and then decrease towards the winter months, or what do we need to do going into the future to better understand if they need to then look for additional permanent capacity per the agreement. So that's really where we're at, is I think with many things going on under the pandemic, to provide a waiver for them at this point to get us through the next 2 months so we can reassess and better understand going into next year how permanent are these trends. And with that, I can take on questions.
Looks, the agreement has said from the beginning that they pay for consumption.
Yeah.
So has anybody suggested when or if they will be wanting to pay additional capacity fees?
Well, this is what we're saying.
Yeah,
prior
so
to
that was the purpose of the meeting that we had with
Right.
them, was they reached out to us and informed us of the fact that they're exceeding the 100,000 gallon per day cap, and so we sat down to talk about, get an understanding of what's going on, and go through the contract with them and talk about what the implications of that are. They're fully aware of the fact that if that's the new level of demand that they need to meet, then they have to pay those additional capacity fees in order for us to provide that
Right.
water supply. The question came up as though to whether or not this actually is a permanent increase in demand, or if this is a 2-month blip because of the influx of people that we're seeing right now.
Well,
As
Yeah, they can't have, I mean, if it's gonna spike up there, it's because people are in those houses, and they can't just be optimistic and say, oh, it's a one-time deal. First of all, we haven't had that significant of a summer until maybe this week, but, if the demand is rising, I mean, the intent of this thing was to allow their well to supposedly be
Right, right.
it doesn't seem like that is occurring,
No, it has worked the way that it was designed. But we also knew going into it that they would, even with that, they would still potentially at some point in the future need to buy additional capacity. And that's why we built that into the agreement, the formula, the way for them to buy that additional capacity. So that is baked into the contract. And if I think that what we were proposing is, let's see how this plays out over the next 6 months. If that level of demand is sustained, or even if it's not, but we get into next summer and it's right back where it is right now, then we know we have to address that additional capacity issue.
Yeah.
And they're fully aware of that.
Yeah, because the real evaluation is, again, the influx or the increase in the amount of water used. Are these people here just temporarily? What will be the demand? Here's a figure that I just heard the other day, and that's the fact that at Hazel Fisher School, the elementary school, 40 new children for this coming year.
so, you mean 40 kids at home?
Yeah, 40 more kids at home.
40 new kids.
Well, the reality is that may have more to do with this than the influx of people. I mean, we've got people.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, it's an indication.
People at home,
Yeah,
Right.
uh-huh.
So that's another, right, if people are staying home and using more water at home rather than where they otherwise would be during the day. And so that's why we wanted to give this time to see if that really is a temporary increase, and if not, then we know we've got to collect those additional capacity fees.
Do we want to wait another 6 months before we reevaluate?
So the
6 months
intent-
isn't gonna do anything for us. 6 months will be in the middle of winter. We won't have any guide.
Right, and so really what we're talking about is between now and September 30th, because once we get to September 30th, they can take as much water every day as they need to, and there's no cap in the contract. It's only between May 1st and September 30th that cap exists. So that's why we were
Oh,
gonna
okay.
reevaluate
Right.
before May 1st next year, see where it's at, and then throughout the summer next year, if we're seeing these sustained levels of increased demand, then we know they need more capacity.
Okay.
So we're just talking about between now and September 30th.
Do we have any capacity limitations up there?
We're not up against a capacity limitation at the treatment plant, and we just rehab both of those filters, and they're performing very well. So even with increased demand that we're seeing on our system as well, we're not anywhere near that capacity limit.
Is there a differential in rate if they're using above their allotted allowance?
They have to pay for the additional tiers of consumption. Yeah, so their bill's going up.
So how did the contract get written so that there's no cap after September?
The concern from CCWD's side, and just to you know, just everybody's aware, but just to be fully transparent, I was on the Blue Lake Springs side negotiating this agreement at the time.
That's where I was going with it.
Right. From CCWD's perspective, the main concern was those summer months when there's peak demand, and that's when there was going to be a concern about potentially coming up against the capacity limitation. And outside of that, there was no concern about the
What, in the contract, what assurances do we have that they're actually using water from their well?
The contract requires, well, it's the capacity, I guess, is the limit that we're up against right now. They have, their total demand is much greater than that. So they're currently producing, I think they said at peak right now, they're close to 200,000 gallons per day on their own. And that's, you know, because it's roughly 50-50. They have half of their system isolated. So half their system is on CCWD water and the other half is on groundwater.
Wonderful. Now this is going, it says, you sit now with CCWD, would you negotiate the same contract with Blue Lake Springs?
I think it's worked out very well for both parties.
Okay, and going forward, it's still, even in this current situation, is this where we should be?
Yeah, I think, and we know, like I said, both parties are aware if the demand, if the higher demand is sustained, then you know, Blue Lake Springs is under no illusions that they're going to have to pay for that additional capacity, and they're prepared to do that. So it's not a question of whether they're willing to or whether they understand that obligation. It's just a question of whether we're going to make them do that now when we're still evaluating whether this is a sustained level of increased demand.
Well, when it comes back, go ahead, Scott. Well,
I was just saying.
go ahead, Scott.
After September 30th, is that still, even with, if there's accelerated growth in that area, is that still where we should be in CCWD if the after September 30th portion of this contract?
Yeah, I think it works because from CCWD's perspective, we if we're seeing that increased demand in the winter months, we're going to see even more of an increase in the summer months up there, and so that May 1st to September 30th gallon per day capacity limit, I think, protects CCWD.
Okay, good. Everyone's been good neighbors. We just want to make sure it's fair for everybody as we move forward.
Yeah, and it just bears repeating that I mentioned briefly on the overview slide that in typical non-COVID times, they can see anywhere from around 650 permanent residents in the winter and that balloon up to around 5,500 in the summer. So there is a big difference between these late.
Right, but our demand is strictly based on summer months. Mm-hmm. Our peak demand is what we've got to be concerned about, and that's what I want to be. And next time we have a report on this, can we get paperwork so we can, if there's math that needs to be done, that we can see what the capacity fees are and the increases and all that stuff?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
when this comes back, I'd like to have something to be able to look at.
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll have we'll lay out exactly what that formula is for them to buy additional capacity, and have that all flushed out. This meeting happened late last week, so we had a pretty short turnaround time.
Yeah, I have just a couple of things. The general manager that we're working with, Dave Hicks, is just the best guy to work with. He's the one who initiated this meeting because he knew that they were exceeding their contract figure. And he's just very amenable to whatever agreement we need out of them. And he knows that, you know, the long run, they're going to be paying more money, but that's part of doing business. The other thing that I wanted to address, Director Ratterman, was development up there at Blue Lake Springs. I believe they only have 22 more lots that they can build on. So they've already gone, you know, their borders. So I don't anticipate a lot more development up there.
Technically, there's another 200 vacant lots in the subdivision, but most of them are unbuildable.
Unbuildable.
So, yeah, I
right.
think it's not, we're not gonna see a lot of new construction in Blue Lake Springs, even if that were to start happening elsewhere on the pass. Yeah, they're pretty restricted as to how much new construction there could be, but really, the concern is because of how low their typical full-time occupancy rate is, even without any new construction, if that rate starts to increase considerably, then that's where the new demand is gonna come in.
How is Blue Lake Springs affected in the new general plan, land use plan?
Good question.
Are there any large parcels that might get, multifamily or any of
Not
that?
within the subdivision that I'm aware of. Yeah.
Who was that? Who said no? I'm
Is that Dave? Is that you on the line? Oh, hey, Dave.
I'm on the phone, my iPad crapped out on me, but I'm listening here.
Oh, Dave, hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Okay.
But like Michael said, we have about 200 unbuildable, well, they're not unbuildable, we have 200 lots left. We did get 2 new constructions this year, but that is rare for us. We might get 1 a year. And, but I just wanted to stay ahead of everything on this and let everybody know what's going on.
Well, we appreciate it.
So at this point, staff's just looking for approval of that waiver for the next 7 weeks, essentially, with the understanding that we'll come back and revisit this before May 1st, but also over the course of next summer.
Yeah, and Dave, if you heard Jeff, he'd like to see some stats and figures.
Well, that's
Yeah, we can provide that.
That's our
Well,
responsibility.
yeah, he'll be working with Brad,
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no further discussion on this, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendations as presented.
Are we in need of a motion?
Yeah, it says action.
discussion action.
This is Cynthia, second that.
We don't have an agenda.
So we'll vote on it?
Okay. Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Thomas?
Yes.
Director Cicada?
Yes.
Director Ratterman?
Yes.
President Underhill?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Brad.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you, Dave, for joining us. Okay.
Thank you guys.
Okay, item number 5, old business, we have none. And we'll go to reports. And Mr. Damon, report on the operations department.
Good afternoon again, President Underhill, directors. Before I start with the highly anticipated operations report PowerPoint, I would like to introduce our new construction maintenance manager, Pat Burkhart.
Hello, Pat.
Good.
The position is really, was really designed to help me optimize the operations of the collections and distribution crews out in the field in the construction department. And Pat's first day was last Monday, and we hit the ground running. We worked through the boil water advisory associated with the line break of the Reach One project and put in a lot of hours. And I think Pat is really doing a great job so far. If you all recall, Pat was the supervisor for the Jenny Lind distribution system and brought that system from, I would say, an average of 25 to 35 in-process leaks at any one point in time down to about 5 a month. So he's very organized and very effective. So we're happy to have him in the management group now.
Great.
Great. Where will he?
Glad to have you.
Where will he be headquartered? Here or?
He's here, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So currently, Pat has a cube right outside of my office, but we're working on setting some permanent digs up. Okay, so I will be brief. Just really wanted to kind of bring back into the meeting conversation about the work efforts our field crews are doing out there. So this is work that was completed in July, and you can see this is a 60 feet of a 1-inch service line replacement off Baldwin. These continue. Repairs and replacements are the norm now. So this is a 40-foot replacement. Field crews working off another off Baldwin. This one's a little bit hard to see, but you can, I just wanted to paint the picture of what our field guys can experience at times is nothing but shale and rock. And so they're working in close quarters in a neighborhood to repair a service line near conduit, electrical conduit in shale and rock, and then really working to restore landscaping post-repair. So there can be a lot that goes into a simple service line repair. And y'all have seen that before. Here are some pictures associated with the failure on the Reach One line. So if you look at the picture on your left, there's a valve key it's a blue valve key on top of a red valve. Right in front of that is a piece of pipe, plain end pipe, and what happened is there was a valve at the end of that pipe that had worked its way off of the piping and blew that T off that you can see kind of leaning up against the granite bedrock there. And so that failure was the source of all the work associated with the boil water advisory and the line break. And the picture on the right is just depicting how the temporary bypass is connected into the system piping and really buried under base rock and sand in order to keep that bypass piping from flexing and moving. And here's some images of our sewer crew, our collections crew in work to connect a new service lateral in Copperopolis. You can see the main in the picture on the right, and the trench has been dug in anticipation of making that connection. This is we find these from time to time in the sewer laterals. They're affectionately called Yetis, and it is a giant root hairball that has been pulled from a sewer lateral.
Oh.
This is the installation of our new pressure reducing station in Copper. This would serve most of the area of Cheyenne Drive and all the associated courts and roads that are coming off of it. It's going to replace a fairly old, failing pressure reducing station. So this is going to be implemented in early September and will only work to bolster the supply reliability of the distribution system in the area. And then finally, here are some pics of the new Gap Vacs in action in Rancho Calaveras. Needless to say, field staff are really, really happy with its performance. It's doing an excellent job. It's very heavy duty machine, and it has dramatically improved their ability to get work done. And with that, I'll take any questions if there are any.
So on this new VACCON, is there quite a quantum leap in the vacuum capability, the suction available, and what differentiates the performance of this one versus the older one?
I would say yes. So this one is operated off of electric over hydraulic PTO, whereas the prior units were a fan driven, and they had a pony motor for the water supply. And in terms of suction, there are no issues with the large 8-inch suction whatsoever being driven off that PTO. And then one of the other benefits that right off the gate is that once that PTO is engaged, all the components are live, and you have multiple ways of using them. So you can use them via remote, you can use them via, there's basically a workstation. And to answer your question in terms of pressure, the pressure wand that the guys use to break up the soil so then you can use the vacuum hose to suck it up. It's 3,000 PSI at 50 gallons a minute with 1,500 gallon tank. So we have 30 minutes of that. And so really right out of the gate in training, it was, hey, everybody, just be mindful of what you're working with here, because we don't want to we got to be sensitive of what we're cutting through when we're excavating soil nowadays, because it's so powerful. And we can turn that down, but if we need it, it's there. It's got that extra gear.
Be sure to wear your steel toe boots.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoops. You can lose a toe pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, great machine.
And that's orders of magnitude more pressure than the old machine had, right?
Yeah,
It was
I believe the old was it 1,500 or was it 1,250?
They're close to 3,000, but they're just so wore out, we're not getting it.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. There you go.
It's amazing what 700,000 will get you these days, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And it has a backup camera, so.
Yeah, 470.
Yeah. 470 is what it was?
Yeah.
470,000, yeah.
Bargain.
Yeah.
And a backup camera, right?
Backup camera, and another component that the guys, that's really helpful is that front spool is actually electric over hydraulic. You can move it. The other the VAC-ons are mechanical. Mechanical, manual is the right word. So you actually have to move that spool around to try to get it where you need it. And this thing is just moving over hydraulic. So it's really helpful.
Great.
There's even a camera on the front.
There you go, camera on the front, and built-in lights all over the thing, which is great, because we don't have to retrofit it with LED lights.
What kind of money did we talk about for this?
This was a $470,000 purchase. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, I think the board approved 2 more VAC-ons for this year? Oh, 1.
One more.
Yeah,
And
one
we're getting that order in, I think, soon.
Yeah,
It
so
takes a
yeah.
year.
Yep, exactly.
Just out of curiosity on that, I mean, it's sort of related, but I forget how we establish paying for that. Are we leasing it, or, in light of the low interest and everything that's out there today, I just wonder if it's still.
It's a short-term loan,
Is it short-term
basically.
loan?
Yeah, we ended up doing capital lease financing for it through Umpqua,
Okay.
and we were able to get some pretty good terms on that. So I think it's a 4-year.
I think we went with 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
At
got
what,
lower,
any
little bit
idea
lower
what the
rate.
rate is, or?
What the interest was?
Yeah.
It was 2 point, like
Wow.
2.7 or.
2.7.
Below 3, which Rebecca
It was below
deserves
3.
deserves some credit for doing some
Oh,
legwork,
that's
because
great.
Wow.
the previous loan that
The
we had
previous
lined
one
up
was
was closer to
4.
5%, I think.
4.7 something,
Yeah, that's
and
great.
so we got it down to 2 point whatever.
Yeah, I just think we need to take advantage whenever possible of the
Yeah.
historic low interest here.
Very low, so it's really, so and then it helps us free up resources for other things that we need to take care of.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
Hey, this is Scott. Just want to say another, again, great report. Like Rick go run through this, given the things that you guys do during a regular month. And thanks for the nice pictures.
Appreciate it, thank you, and I'll relay the good
And I
wishes.
just have one more, couple more items. You've all been inundated with everything from PG&E for the PSPS and anticipation of what's happening. And I guess PG&E is part of the group that gets together monthly.
So there's a lot. PG&E is conducting training sessions. They have created a website, an interactive website specifically for Calaveras County and the different public entities within the county. And they conduct a weekly/bi-weekly review of how the website works and the different components associated with the website. And so they're trying to conduct these continual training sessions that folks can jump in and out of to try to show really what it boils down to is we're gonna receive much information much more quickly regarding the map, for the proposed outage, and we're going to get a better understanding with that information of what critical infrastructure will be affected. Incidentally, I've also reached out to PG&E on my own or independent of the group to try to get those folks to come over to the district and sit down and discuss what it's going to look like from a district infrastructure perspective, and are there GIS layers that they can provide to us that we can then push out to our field staff to give us a really detailed understanding of the possible negative impacts to our infrastructure. You know, the overall message from PG&E is we're going to have PSPS events this year,
Right.
but they're going to be smaller and of a shorter duration.
That was the big key from one of the
Yeah,
flyers that we got.
Right. That continues to be the take-home message, but we still really feel like in order to optimize our ability to be effective with our resources, the actual detailed GIS layer and map would really help in being timely and effective with fuel and equipment deployment and generator deployment. We have also within the past couple weeks been reviewing the emergency action plan that we created for the district, updating it, making any changes associated with the document, incorporating people like Pat into the document. And we made some purchases, if you recall, last year for fuel storage, and those needed to be incorporated into the document and different flow charts and just making some minor adjustments. So we're prepared for what we anticipate is October.
Right. Okay,
And
and that brings up, you said the famous word generator, and item number 10 under Director of Operations, you have development of a district-wide generator spreadsheet, and I thought that was interesting. Location and how long those generators run, and so.
Yep.
That's great, that's great.
Thank you. Yeah. And what that also helps us to do is helps us to report the operation of our generators much more quickly to the county air board to give them an idea of how often our generators are running, whether it's exercise or operating on load also.
It also has translated into a list of our priority generators to gradually replace over time, because we know some of our generators are old and are not used to being run as hard as they were last year. And so we have our priority list that we're going to work through over the next few years and gradually replace the ones that need to be replaced.
Just, did we, I know I had a power outage yesterday, reported to PG&E, were we affected in Jenny Land and La Cantera?
Yes, we were. We actually, all the generators in the area operated, and then we actually deployed some trailer mounteds because, to the Tank D site, because we have made purchases of generators, but we don't have them all deployed yet. And that's one of the sites that we've identified. We really need to get a permanent standby generator on a slab. There's an automatic transfer switch that was installed a couple months ago, and now we need to install a generator.
Okay.
Yep. And do you know why the power failed? I still hadn't heard.
We just got a notice that it would be off, but it said it would be
okay.
off until midnight, actually, I thought.
Gotcha.
And it came on in the afternoon again.
Yeah, yep.
I didn't hear the reason why.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And I think the PG&E message that the outages are going to be shorter and less frequent is, for me, falls into the category of we'll believe it when we see it, but we're going to prepare for more of what we saw last year.
A few meetings ago, we got a report that you had purchased a fuel truck from Ebbets Fast Gas. Has that been put in service already?
Yeah, so we have the fuel truck. The recommendation from Ebbets Pass when we made the purchase is that we change all the fluids out of it. So Mike actually, that was here just a little bit ago, is done that. And then we plan to deploy that to copper initially. So what happened last year, and it really helped us, is we rented a fuel truck and we stationed it at Copperopolis just because we have 32 lift stations and all the generator sites. And we actually used the truck to fill our smaller vehicles, which then went around and filled all of our smaller generators. And so that's the current plan with the fuel truck. We'll keep it at Copperopolis. If we need to, we can, and this is what we did last year also, we used it and we took it over to the Rancho Calaveras area and fueled generators in that service area also. But yeah, just to reiterate, current plan is to keep it in Copper, keep it fueled and full, and have fuel trucks actually fill it, and then we can draw from it.
As I recall, that was made available because of the California Air Resources Board requirements on Evans Pass. So it's logical to try to keep the mileage as low as possible on that.
That's right. That's exactly right. And one of the reasons why I think it's very valuable as a fuel tank, and then if need, we can drive it and we can actually take it to different service areas to fill. But the real idea is to keep it in one area and use it as a filling station.
So do you have a multiple thousands of gallons of a purchase order with some distributor then?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have Hunt & Sons is the primary fuel supplier. Ebbets Pass Gas was the primary fuel supplier for the pass. That has changed. Hunt & Sons will be picking up some of the areas that Ebbets Pass fueled previously. And then we also have an entity out of Sonora that's a backup for Hunt & Sons should they become overcome. And then we have entities from the valley that are third, fourth, and fifth backup for Hunt & Sons. But that's the primary vendor that we're going to use for fuel.
They'll deliver from Sonora.
Yes. Yep.
Very good, Damon.
Thank you.
Can you answer a question on the dangerous bacteria found in New Maloney?
Well, so I can tell you that the district has been involved with the harmful algal bloom group with the state and the EPA. There's a quarterly meeting that happens with the Regional Water Quality Control Board. It used to happen at the EPA building, and now it's a remote meeting that contemplates harmful algal blooms. And then now there is as you saw, there's a work group that really works to ID harmful algal blooms from space satellite imagery.
Oh, right.
And they use the color of the reservoir, pond, lake, whatever, river, what have you, to assess the likelihood that there could be a harmful algal bloom in the body of water. And then they actually send out scientists to pull samples. And then they have threat levels. And Lisa Medina at the County Environmental Health has done a great job of being involved with that group as well to be mindful. I think it surprised a lot of folks last year that Calaveras County had some harmful algal blooms occur, because for years it was always a Bay Area / valley problem, and now it's slowly working its way into the foothills. So she and I work back and forth to talk about the blooms that have occurred and whether or not they're going to negatively impact, from my perspective, district facilities, and then from her perspective, the county overall. And it was a watch list, it was a warning level, and from what I understand, it has not gone beyond that. It hasn't gone to tier 1, 2, and 3, which is, no body contact. It's an avoidance, and we have not had any since. So I just received an email on Monday. I think the nearest to us was San Joaquin County with some harmful algal bloom notices.
So is this all bodies of water that we have to be concerned about?
Potentially. So.
They had one in Comanche. They were monitoring Lake Comanche also, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. And there's we're learning a heck of a lot, and I can tell you that in the Calaveras River is a benthic algae mat, which is a mat that adheres to the rocks on the bottom of the river, and it has the potential to create harmful algal blooms, although it's highly unlikely. So there's a lot of information out of New Zealand that has helped to inform the scientists at the state water boards about benthic algae mats, and they actually monitor the Calaveras as their basically home test case to better understand these mats. But it's a somewhat of a unique algae system.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Damon. Great.
Yeah, I just follow up on that. Damon's, over the last year, especially it kind of started for us, Forest Meadows was the wake-up call.
Right.
And Damon has really ramped up in a very short period of time and become an expert in that stuff. And he's working with the leading researchers in the state and really making sure we're on top of it. So commend him for that. Couple of things, I'll try to be brief with my update. Damon talked about the Reach One line break and subsequent boil water advisory last week. I think, though, it's worth addressing a few other points. One is just how great the crew was at responding to it, how quickly our engineering staff and operations staff got on top of it, both in terms of addressing the immediate leak and the operational issue and deploying the resources we needed, and Rebecca as well, the resources we needed to get the boil water advisory out. And so it was a monumental effort. And the other thing that's worth mentioning is there was another line break that occurred on Reach One at the same time. So one of our more typical line breaks further down the hill. So staff was having to respond to that at the same time. And then we had a third Reach One break last week as well, part of the repair to the incident we had on Tuesday. So it was a handful, and it was really unfortunate that we had to have an unplanned shut-off and a boil water advisory for nearly 1,000 customers. Not something we ever want to have to do, and really regret the inconvenience that causes people. But our staff, I think, deserves a lot of credit for how they've responded to it. TechEye is also moving along quickly. Fortunately, nothing along those lines to report. I would not be surprised, though, if we have a TechEye line break before the end of the summer, before the construction's complete. So we're, obviously we'll be prepared for that. But hopefully not. Hopefully we can get through the next few months, and I think we're on track for completion of construction before the snow flies. So that's the goal.
Yeah, and I was noting to you that they went through and tore up the street. I mean, it is just, they're gonna have to,
There's gonna be a lot of pavement work up there. That's right. Yeah.
But that's part of the plan.
And we're happy to do it, to get rid of
Oh,
TechEye.
absolutely, absolutely.
And then kind of along those same lines, because Reach One is really entering a phase the next couple of months. The main pipeline is installed, it's completed, and so now it's going back through, adding appurtenances, tying into the main line, and working a lot more in close proximity to the old infrastructure, which is dangerous or risky. And then also, pressure testing the new line and cutting over to those service laterals. So there's going to be a series of planned shutoffs over the next few months, and it's working in sensitive areas. So hopefully we don't have any other incidents with the old infrastructure the way we did last week. But it's definitely entering a phase of nearing completion, and also probably the most, the riskiest portion of the project. So we've been contemplating ways, ideally right now, if in normal times, we would schedule a community meeting, a town hall meeting to get the word out about these planned shutoffs and where we are in the project, and address issues that came up last week. We're limited as to what we can do on that front at this point. So we're trying to come up with whether we do a WebEx version of that or some other way to do some outreach to the community in that area. And that would also tie into, I think we were hoping to do at least a couple of town hall meetings in different districts each year. And we'd started doing last year, and that kind of got derailed the first half of this year. And I don't think we should necessarily just put that on hold until, who knows when things are going to get back to normal. So we're working on ways to conduct those things in light of the current restrictions that we have. So we'll be working with the board members for ideas and for scheduling.
I like the idea of a WebEx. Again, updating our customers on the status of Reach One. I think I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, I think in a perfect scenario, we would be able to do it in person. We can show some of the infrastructure that we've recently pulled out that explains, the visual really helps explain to people why we're doing, why this project is so important. But short of that, at a minimum, yes, a WebEx to so that we can address all of those questions and get the information out.
Yeah, and as long as the outreach is solid, we let as many people know as we possibly can, so that
Well, Highway 4 is easy for outreach. All you need is a sign on the Highway 4.
It's only one way in.
One way in, one way out.
Right.
Seriously, if you did one right in the construction area, I'm being completely serious about it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be probably very, very productive.
And we did do that as part of the really monumental outreach effort last week, and Rebecca deserves a lot of credit for this too. We used the construction signs that we have up there to put the boil water advisory on those signs, and Rebecca has figured out how to use Paymentus to do an automatic call out. And so we were able to deploy that on Tuesday as well, to let people know that there was an outage and a boil water advisory. And then we did it even better, I think, the second time around on Friday when we lifted the advisory. It wasn't only a recorded call out, it was a text message as well. So I think we're continually getting better at that. And it being able, that's significant, because it really reduces the number of houses that we then have to go to door with a door tag.
Yes, absolutely.
To notify. And it's hard to imagine a scenario where we completely eliminate that, especially when we're talking about nearly 1,000 customers. But we got it down to, I think, 250.
How do you know?
What's that?
How do you know if you made contact?
It tracks the call, and it lets us know
whether it was received, it gives you an address not to go to?
We know how long they listened. And so if they got it and hung up, then we didn't count that, and we went and door tagged them.
Yeah, so what the reporting comes back to us is it'll say like dialed but never answered. So we count that as no response.
Huh?
And then we'll have ones that say answered, but you look at the duration of the call and it'll be like 2 seconds. Well, we know they answered it and then they hung up. And then I can time the message and how long it takes for them to listen to the bulk of what we're trying to explain to them. So if I will look at all of the duration and say, okay, anyone who hung up before, 12 seconds, then we're gonna count them as non-responsive, just to do the best due diligence that we can.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it worked out really well. Then we figured out the texting. And I'm gonna work with the City of Angels. They had a major shutdown a few weeks ago. Because I think the issue we're running into is we have a lot of properties where the owner who's paying the bill is not the person who lives there.
Right.
And we don't have a lot of tenant information. So we're trying to figure out if there's another system that we could also use to get that information. So maybe a combination of all three may be able to eliminate even more of the door-to-door door tags.
Sure.
Yeah. So we
That's
do
great.
know that Big Brother CCWD is watching you.
Only if you want to be watched. We're not forcing this on anybody. We're just trying to find different tools to get the information out, and our goal is 100%, notification. But there were still people that didn't get the notice, and so we're constantly having to figure out what went wrong in those cases and how we can do better, and make sure we try to get everybody's attention.
And we'd rather call you potentially in a couple different avenues and have you get irritated that you were called too many times than the flip side, which is you weren't called at all.
Yeah, sure.
There's a guy who works over in the Water Resources Department that could make that automatic. You have a pipe break.
I wish, that is part of the problem. So this is part of the conversation that we're having internally about what's the best way to gather that information, because we really don't have a system right now that has all of that information. So like part of it's over here and part of it's over here, and then you realize another part is sitting.
Well, so we're missing tenants.
Yeah.
most likely.
We're missing
Mostly.
tenant information, but we're also missing the capability of just grabbing a particular area from a geographic standpoint. So we're missing that GIS component. So what happens is Damon goes through CMMS, the mobile management system, and then he just starts kind of drawing around the particular properties that are impacted. And then he has to do that multiple times because it's not really letting him do the like a polygon type section of a larger area. So that takes quite a bit of time. And then he gives that information to me. I have to scrub the file, and then we have to take all of that information and then find matches of properties in Springbrook, and then try to gather all of the cell phone numbers and mobile and telephone numbers for there. So between those two efforts, that's how we're able to compile the list.
So it's a monumental effort, but compare that to last year when we had the break in Jenny Lind that affected about 800 customers. We had 15 staff people walking the neighborhood for 8 hours to door tag, and then 2 days later repeating that effort to door tag to lift the advisory. So this is a huge, huge improvement over what we had to do in the past, and we're going to keep working on it and keep revising it to get it better.
It seems like another, when we're trying to get people to go onto our automated system, it seems like maybe another selling point that we will be able to notify you better if you're on the system than if you're not on the system.
Yep.
And of any emergency.
And
might be
updated
just
information.
another thing to
and-
add to
yeah.
the
Yep.
promotion to get them on there.
Yeah.
But then, then we have a tenant change, and then we
Right.
start all over again.
And part of that too is once, as we develop these tools, then doing some outreach to the customers so they know what to expect. And so one of the things we did in the second message on Friday was we actually added to the end of the message, if you are a landlord, please pass this information along to your tenant. So we're learning, and we're gonna keep revising the tools that we have, and then also doing some outreach to make sure the public knows what to expect and why they're getting those calls.
Cool.
Okay.
Good work.
Rebecca, before you leave, in the latest Aqua newsletter, I thought this was very interesting, talking about COVID-19. It says, it's currently acceptable to ask for an employee plans on vacationing in case it is a coronavirus hotspot, as well as how he or she plans on traveling. The answers could determine whether the employee needs to quarantine upon return. I thought that was very interesting.
We've just canceled all vacations.
We can't go anywhere anyways.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
that is
but
interesting.
I did have a staff person who had mentioned that they were gonna fly out of state, and then they were gonna come right back. And I said, could you not? So if there's a way to, consider if you're coming back in from out of state, maybe remote work for a little while, but yeah.
Yeah. And then we want
We can't dive too far into this, so.
Oh, okay.
It's
We
not
want
good.
touchless hand sanitizer stations.
We have hand sanitizer all over the place.
We do have, thanks to our purchasing agent, we have touchless soap dispensers for washing hands, but I don't think we have touchless hand sanitizer yet. But we do have the hand sanitizer available.
Yeah,
in
I know.
abundance.
And I know, it's all over the place, but this was very interesting in the.
And speaking of COVID, that was the next update I was going to give. We're still closed to the public here, open by appointment though, and that's actually been working out pretty well, the feedback I'm getting from customer service. So we're open to the public by appointment, basically, is the way we've been operating. The update that we got this morning from Calaveras OES is that the testing site at the fairgrounds they've extended that contract, I think, through September, he said, or maybe even beyond that. But the really good news is because before it was taking a week to get an appointment and then another week or two before you were getting test results.
Yeah.
And they have increased, they've accelerated their ability to get test results. So they're getting test results now within, or in about 48 hours. And they're operating at well below capacity. So you can get a test result, or you can get a test taken at the fairgrounds and get a test result within 48 hours, which is really fantastic for us. If we have somebody that thinks they may have been exposed, the ability to get a quick test result is, provides a lot of assurance. The Calaveras OES brought up this morning also that the Red Cross has done a few blood drives over the last few months that have been successful, but they want to reach out to the larger employers in the county to see if we want to host one. So we're gonna work with them on that. Any questions about COVID or our response? You're looking at me like you have a question.
I'm gonna ask about another subject, but.
Oh, okay. So next item I was gonna cover, yesterday we sent out a draft joint powers agreement for our groundwater sustainability agency. Brad and Dave Cameron and I put a lot of work into it. I think it's a pretty significant step in the process of developing a new entity that will be able to take us into the implementation of the groundwater sustainability plan. That's a first draft, and yesterday was the first time the other members saw it. So I expect there to be a lot of dialogue about how that entity is structured and the governance of that new entity. So we're still early in the process, but I think getting that draft out was a significant milestone, and hopefully our next meeting next Friday will be very productive. Just a couple more quick things. We've just finished working on a press release with the UMRA staff announcing the 20th anniversary of UMRA. So keep an eye out for that press release. That's another significant milestone. The unfortunate news is we had lined up a fantastic external affairs manager candidate who has changed his mind. So we are back on the hunt, but hopefully we'll have some good news on that front in the near future. That's all I have for now. Any questions for me?
Getting back to the Reach One project, I haven't heard the mention of the tribe's involvement in that.
I'm sorry, of the what?
The tribe's involvement.
Yeah.
So are they still involved? Or?
They have been on site. There's one specific area that they were concerned about, that we were concerned about as well, where tribal monitoring was required. So we had a contract with them for tribal monitoring of that site, and they have been there for that part of the process. But there's been no news, no discoveries, no issues there.
Okay, no articles in the paper or anything?
That relationship has improved significantly, I'm happy to report. No, we've worked really well with them since then. They've also, were with Damon on a site visit, on another project in West Point. No, I think we're on a much better, path with them.
Very good.
I had one comment, question. We all got a copy of the letter from the person who received our CCWD scholarship.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I thought that was great. How many applicants did we have?
I don't recall. I want to say,
I'm not sure how many applicants we got, because Joel was involved in that. I don't know who else he worked with here, but, so there were 4, awards. So, I reached out to those 4. I'm not positive on how many.
I could find out. I think it was a pretty significant number. I remember talking to Joel about it, and he was working through the applications, and I think there were quite a few, but I don't recall exactly how many.
So it's working well, the way we've structured it.
Yeah, so the kind of, the weirdness about with COVID is historically what would happen is they would get selected, and then they could come to the board and each one would read their essay. So with how everything's going on, that's been kind of problematic to do. So we were thinking, instead of just issuing a press release acknowledging them that they were selected, and then passing in their essays along to the board.
Okay. That's fine, thank you. All right, then.
Hey, this is Cindy.
Oh.
I'm still here. I just wanted to say we've all been having good dialogue and questions, so I haven't had to say a whole lot, or even ask a question for that matter. However, I do have one question. Michael, on the external affairs position that's available, I don't see it on the website. Is that something you'll be putting up there soon with what the job description is?
We haven't refloated the position yet. I think it still was up there because it was one of the open until filled postings. So last time I checked, it was still up on the website. But we have not recirculated it yet. We're still talking to other candidates.
Okay. I was just up there and I don't see it. So there's the accountant 2 positions there. But it doesn't mean it's not there. Okay, thank you.
I'll double check that.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Ratterman, have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to report that the filing for CCWD Division 1, Division 5, is going to be on the ballot this November, closed last Friday, and I have no opponents, so CCWD is stuck with me for another 4 years. That's all I got.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You can sit next to me, Scott.
You've been promoted.
Okay. Any future agenda items? Anything we want to?
Or other director reports? Did we already go through everybody?
No.
Okay.
Okay. The next board meeting is Wednesday, August 26th at 1 o'clock. And then Wednesday, September 9th at 1 o'clock. And we have a closed session item.
Were you going to do board reports?
Oh, board reports, I'm sorry. I thought we had done that. Okay.
Not really.
No, okay, not formally.
No.
Okay, board reports.
Jeff has something to report.
What? What do you want me to report?
Well, Scott reported. You're running again.
I am running again, yes.
All right. Can I be your campaign manager?
Perhaps, in Copperopolis.
Okay. All right. That's it, huh?
That's all I had to say.
Okay.
And Cindy?
Really nothing to report. IRWM will be next Wednesday. So until then, nothing to report.
Okay.
You're coming in loud and clear here, by the way.
Very good.
That's good.
Thank you. I guess that's a thank you.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, I can hear you guys real well also. I think using those microphones must be working good.
Russ?
I just want to talk a little bit about a groundwater committee, Aqua Groundwater Committee meeting that took place last week that was really kind of a shocking discussion. Son of a gun. And this is kind of, well, actually, it goes further back than that. It was the Aqua virtual meeting, the conference, a so-called summer conference, where they had a college professor, a UC Berkeley professor, who had done an in-depth survey of the expected impacts of the implementation of the groundwater, the SGMA legislation. And I've been working on this for the last 2 or 3 years, and I knew that there were going to be some, somebody's ox was going to be gored, but I had no idea. I don't know, this is the first time I've heard somebody say that, oh yeah, by the way, the expectation is there will be 1 million acres of existing land that's going to be fallowed. It'll have to be in order to get the water in balance, what we're using versus what's going back in. And okay, 1 million acres is a big number, but the other number that he talked about was that from top to bottom, there's going to be initial impacts in the fields. There'll be fewer workers, but then the businesses that depend on supplying those folks, and anyway, the bottom line is that there's a potential for 100,000 jobs to be lost as a result of this. And I don't know. I'm just wondering if people have really started thinking about what a big hole that's going to cause in the economy of California. But anyway, that was kind of shook me up a little bit. The other thing that I want to talk about on the safety issue, this backup camera and all that kind of stuff, somebody should take a camera and take a picture of this tree out here, this oak tree, because it is dead. And when it comes down, it's going to come right through that ceiling and maybe hit our president.
Check it out.
Yeah, we did some work on that last year, as you recall, but we've noticed that we were hoping that the rest of it would rebound, and about half of it still looks pretty bad.
Yeah. Even seemingly healthy trees can just fall over. One did down the road from my place, but anyway, just make a note of it. Sounds like you already have.
Just to respond to that, I can remember one day coming to a board meeting, driving down Pool Station Road here. It was hot as hell, probably 105, and it had been that way for a while. And off to my left, one of the big oak trees over there, I literally saw that thing explode. There was no wind, nothing. There were a bunch of cattle underneath it. I mean, I just happened to glance over there, and that tree literally came apart and blew up with nothing but the heat that made it. So then I actually went and researched it. So I mean, but that was a live tree, and I think when they have water in them, they have a tendency to swell and not. But we should take care of that tree if it's a hazard. So.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was less of a priority when you weren't coming to the meetings.
Yeah.
So we'll get on it now.
On the other hand, I had 2 big trees fall at my house, and I also had this old Suburban that I really could never get the damn thing smogged. And I parked that Suburban underneath one of those trees, hoping it would the tree would come down. God damn, it never did.
Insurance coverage.
Well,
falling object.
Yeah. Try.
Okay, Director Ratterman,
He gave his report, I think.
any more?
You just called on me and I gave my report.
Okay. I forgot. All right, now we're ready for item 9, which is a closed session and conference with legal counsel, potential litigation, government code, our famous 54956.9. It's 3 cases. Okay, so adjourn for closed session.
You know, my wife Vince had a tree, that one tree taken